Hare Krishna everyone, so we're back with The Path of Perfection by His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. This is Shravanam Diaries podcast. I'm your host Sulalita Devidasi. Welcome. We're continuing, we're starting chapter 9, Destination After Death. Okay. Sarva dvarani samyamya manohridi nirudya cha Murdnyadayatmanah prāṇam asthito yoga dharanam. Quote, the yogic situation is that of detachment from all sensual engagements, closing all the doors of the senses and fixing the mind on the heart and the life air at the top of the head. One establishes himself in yoga. Unquote. Bhagavad Gita 8.12. One translation of the word yoga is plus. That is just the opposite of minus. At the present moment, due to our materially contaminated consciousness, we are minus God. When we add God to our lives, when we connect with Him, life is perfected. This process has to be finished at the time of death. Therefore, as long as we are alive, we have to practice approaching that point of perfection so that at the time of death, when we will give up this material body, we can realize the Supreme. Prayāṇa-kāle manasācalena bhaktyā yukto yoga-balena caiva bhruvor madhye prāṇam āveśya samyak satam paraṁ puruṣam upaiti divyam. One who at the time of death fixes his life air between the eyebrows and in full devotion engages himself in remembering the Supreme Lord will certainly attain to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Unquote. Bhagavad Gita 8.10. The words prayāṇa-kāle mean at the time of death. Life is a kind of preparation for the final examination, which is death. If we pass that examination, we are transferred to the spiritual world. According to a very common Bengali proverb, whatever you do for perfection will be tested at the time of death. This process by which the yogi closes the doors of the senses is technically called pratyahara, meaning just the opposite. In quotes, just the opposite. Presently, our senses are engaged in seeing worldly beauty. Just the opposite means retracting the senses from that beauty and seeing the beauty inside. Hearing is concentrated on the omkara sound that is within. Similarly, all the other senses are withdrawn from external activity. The mind is then concentrated on the Vishnu Murti within the heart. Manahridi nirudya. The word nirudya means confining, the mind within the heart. When the yogi has thus withdrawn his senses and concentrated his mind, he transfers the life air to the top of the head and decides where he should go. There are innumerable planets, and beyond these planets is the spiritual world. The yogis obtain information of these planets from the Vedic literatures, and just as before coming to United States, I obtained information about this country from books. Since all the higher planets in the spiritual world are described in the Vedic literatures, the yogi knows everything and can transfer himself to any planet he likes. He does not need a material spaceship. Scientists have been trying for many years to reach other planets with spaceships, but this is not the process. Maybe by this means 1 or 2 men can reach a planet, but that is not the general process. It is not possible for everyone. Generally, if one wants to transfer himself to a higher planet, he practices this jnana yoga system, not the bhakti yoga system. The system of bhakti yoga is not used for attaining any material planet. The devotees of Krishna are not interested in any planet within this material universe, because they know that on all planets the 4 basic miseries exist. So what are the 4 basic miseries? Birth, old age, disease, and death. In the higher planets, one's lifespan may be much greater than on this planet Earth, but death is ultimately there. Therefore, those who are in Krishna consciousness are not interested in material life, but spiritual life, which means relief from these 4-fold miseries. Those who are intelligent do not try to elevate themselves to any planet within this material world. To attain a higher planet, one has to prepare a particular type of body to enable one to live on that planet. We cannot attain these planets by artificial, materialistic means, because a suitable body is necessary to live there. We can stay within water only a short while, but fish are living there their entire life. But the fish does not have a body suitable for living on the land. Similarly, to enter a higher planet, one has to prepare a suitable body. In the higher planets, 6 of our months are equal to 1 of their days, and the inhabitants of these planets live 10,000 years. This is all described in the Vedic literatures. And please stick around until we will start reading Srimad Bhagavatam, and over there we'll find many different stories of how yogis were able to live even underwater, because they were yogis, so they're able to have that art of living in any sphere. The yogis would be traveling from one planet to another, and what is it? It was also mentioned, yes, and there will be descriptions of heavenly planets, and like I remember distinctively long description of heavenly planets when it was described the story of Gajendra. Gajendra the elephant, he was a king in his past life, so he went to heaven because he was a pious king, but he was not so pious to get a human-like body, so he got an elephant's body in heaven. He was enjoying what he was attacked by a crocodile. Then he remembered prayers and he started praying, and Lord Vishnu saved him. So there are many different stories that are described in Vedic literatures, and yeah, so we can find out about that and decide for ourselves whether we want to go better to go to the topmost place, which is beyond material world. So although the lifespan on these planets is very long, there is ultimately death. After 10,000 years, 20,000 years, or millions of years, it doesn't matter. Death is ultimately there. In the very beginning of Bhagavad Gita, however, we learn that we are not subject to death. Na jayate mriyate va kadachin nayam bhutva bhavitava na bhuyah ajo nityah shashvato yam purano nahanyate hanyamane sharire. Quote, for the soul there is never birth nor death. The soul does not come into being, will not come into being, and have not come into being. He is unborn, eternal, ever existing, undying, and primeval. He is not slain when the body is slain. Unquote. Bhagavad Gita 2.20. Krishna thus instructs us that We are spirit soul and eternal. Therefore, why should we subject ourselves to birth and death? One who utilizes his intelligence can understand this. One who is situated in Krishna consciousness is not interested in promotion to any planet where death exists. Rather, being promoted to the spiritual sky, he receives a body just like God's. Ishvarah paramah Krishna Satchit Ananda Vigraha. Brahma Samhita 5.1. God's body is Satchit Ananda, eternal, full of knowledge, and full of pleasure. Therefore, Krishna is called the reservoir of all pleasure. If, upon leaving this body, we transfer ourselves to the spiritual world, to Krishna's planet, or any other spiritual planet, we attain a similar body full of Satchit Ananda. The spirit soul is a very minute particle within the body. It cannot be seen like the external body, but it is sustaining the external body. The object of Shat Chakra system is to locate the soul at the topmost part of the head. From there, one who is perfect in Dhyana Yoga can transfer himself to a higher planet at will. That is the perfection of this type of yoga. The Dhyana yogi is somewhat like a traveler who thinks, "Oh, let me see what the moon is like, then I will transfer myself to higher planets." He goes from here to there in the universe, just as on Earth, travelers go from New York to California to Canada. But a Krishna conscious person is not interested in such interplanetary travel within the material universe. His goal is service to Krishna and transfer to the spiritual sky. Omityakaksharam Brahma Vyaharan Mamanusmaran Yah Prayati Tyajandeham Sayati Paramam Gatim. Quote, after being situated in this yoga practice and vibrating the sacred syllable Om, the supreme combination of letters, if one thinks of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and quits his body, he will certainly reach the spiritual planets. Unquote. Bhagavad Gita 8.13. Om, or Omkara, is the concise form or impersonal form of the transcendental vibration. The dhyana yogi should vibrate Om while remembering Krishna or Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The impersonal sound of Krishna is Om, but the sound Hare Krishna contains Om. Whatever the case, the entire yoga system aims at concentration on Vishnu. Impersonalists may imagine a form of Vishnu, but the personalists do not imagine. They actually see the form of the Lord. Jai. Whether one imagines or factually sees, one has to concentrate his mind on the Vishnu form. Here the word Mam means unto the Supreme Lord Vishnu. If one can remember Vishnu upon quitting this body, he can enter into the spiritual kingdom. One who is intelligent naturally thinks, I am permanent and eternal. Why should I be interested in things that are not permanent? Actually, no one wants an existence that is temporary. If we are living in an apartment and the landlord asks us to vacate, and we have to do so, whether we want to leave or not. However, if we move to a better apartment, we are not sorry. It is our nature, however, to want to remain wherever we live. That is because we are permanent and want a permanent residence. Our inclination is to remain. Therefore, we don't want to die. We don't want the miseries of birth, old age, disease, and death. These are external miseries inflicted by material nature, and they attack us like some fever. In order to extricate ourselves, we have to take certain precautions. To get rid of these miseries, it is necessary to get rid of the material body, because these miseries are inherent in material existence. So we're going to stop here for today, and tomorrow we shall continue about how to end our material existence by the process of bhakti yoga. So stay tuned. Thank you so much for tuning in today. The link to this book is in the description, and we shall see you next time. Hare Krishna.